Just to start it off, let's get some introductions going. So, K-Sync, let us know, who are you? What are you about? Tell us about your project. I know Collectiverse has a lot to offer, so let's hear about it.
Yeah, great. So again, thank you for the opportunity. So I go by Apollo in the Collectiverse Discord. My real name, my doc's name is Cole Singh. I'm one of the founders. Um, we, my background. I'll start with my background. I've worked in finance for a little over 5 years. I was a interest rate derivatives trader for two large Wall Street banks, Merrill Lynch and Credit Suisse. I did a lot of financial structuring and financial engineering there, as well as trading. Um,
Hello? I think we may have lost him. You there?
yeah, can you hear me?
Now I can. Okay, there we go.
Okay, all right. I don't know. All right, so a little technical, but anyway, let me know if any issues. So, what part did you lose me at?
You said the word financial, and then nothing else after that.
Sorry. So financial. So I've done some financial. I've done financial engineering. I traded on Wall Street for a number of years. And then from there, I went and launched a couple of technology companies. One that was sold to publicly traded Box, raised close to $100 million, including from Goldman Sachs. And so I got interested in the DeFi space a few years back. I've been trading in the Bitcoin and Ethereum, using crypto exchanges and so forth. And then I started getting into DeFi and just realizing how amazing this space is. And coming from a finance background, realizing the potential for this space. From my perspective, and this is just a very individual perspective, and it's obviously going to bleed through in the collectiverse vision, is that right now a lot of what we're doing in finance is just taking what exists and trying to make it accessible in DeFi, and that's great. That's what typically new platforms, new mediums enable. I mean, when we started off with the internet, we had internet magazines, and it was great to be able to read your internet on your phone or I don't know, phone at the time, or on a computer versus just getting a paper magazine. Where the real innovation I see and from this world is that we are going to be able to financialize things we never imagined, and that's when we get to that opportunity. It's going to be a game changer. So right now we're in traditional, where a lot of the platforms we see around lending and what's traditional in this and in current finance. Um, and I expect that we're going to see really truly breakthrough capabilities going forward. And so I wanted to build a platform, and that's where Collectiverse comes in, that makes it easier for builders to build and experiment, that allows a business that is off chain, that wants to just try building it on something on chain and see what can be done, to tinker and experiment. And that's where things like the App Store enable. That's where website builders allowed, and Shopify allowed, for e-commerce. It's just let people launch something and build something and try things that would be otherwise too cumbersome or difficult and expensive to build, where they can just try it and it works. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, wow. And now you're creating real businesses and new things. So that's where the Collectiverse vision's coming. We wanted to create a platform that reduces the friction for builders to build, and at the same time makes it safer in this ecosystem to invest. We've seen too many rugs in the space. You have the incentives that when people get tired, or project owner gets tired, they take the money, and they feel like they've deserved it, and that's not right, but that's where we've seen it. So the goal is to create an ecosystem that, instead of when you build directly on chain where there's no systems in place to protect investors, we're building a layer that sits on top of any chain. We're starting with Avalanche, that provides built-in protections for investors, while at the same time providing benefits to builders, as I talked about. So that's the overview of what Collectiverse is creating.
Yeah, that's awesome. That is a very, very good brief introduction to, what you guys are all doing there. And I will say, I really am intrigued because of your finance background and kind of coming into the DeFi space from, traditional finance into something that is completely new, and I'm sure that a lot of stuff has changed there as well. Can I ask how long you did that for?
On Wall Street, I traded for a little over 5 years, and the only reason I left is I saw a business opportunity to build something and build my own company, and it ended up working out. I sold that, and then ended up leading to a similar related company that I ended up selling as well. And just to touch on the type of companies these are a particular type of software called middleware. And I don't want to get too technical, but basically, middleware is something that sits above core infrastructure that makes it easier to deploy applications or easier for people to build. So I've built two successful businesses that are middleware businesses, and where my opportunity that I see now is creating middleware for the DeFi NFT space, and that's what Collectiverse is. If you want to take it from a very technical software basis, we're creating middleware for this space.
Yes, yes. I understand 100%. It does make a lot of sense, and I really love the part that you guys are addressing about, how the past has happened, with the introduction of the internet and magazines being online, and then it's like, okay, but this isn't really new. You're bringing the old to new tech, but new tech will be developed and new things will come with that in the future. So I like the reference back to the past and how you guys are using that to kind of give you guys some insights into what's coming. I think that's forgotten about a lot. A lot of people talk about the paying attention to history, but don't actually do it themselves. So it's cool to see it in action.
Yes, definitely. I appreciate that. And I mean, we are definitely going to see the same way we've seen uh, that people are trying new things. We are just starting that. And that's where the DeFi, this is where DeFi is so exciting and the NFT space is so exciting. We're in the Wild West here. I mean, people
Hmm.
are trying new things. And even though you see things, you get frustrated with some of the things happening, people are trying things, and then you got to love that. And I give everybody who's in this space, who's investing in the space, who's building the space, so much kudos for that. At the same time, we need to make it easier. We need to create protections, because if we don't do that, then you're going to lose the mainstream. I believe there's the opportunity to bring in much broader mainstream investors and institutional investors. But the only way you're going to achieve that is by creating legitimate core use cases. And the only way
Hmm.
you're going to do that is by having the experimentation, is trying things we never you thought would be crazy, but you're like, hey, it's so easy to do. Let me just try it.
Yes, for sure. And so I'm sure that I'm going to get into asking you a load of questions later, just about personal experiences and how that's influenced everything. But going a little bit deeper into Collectiverse, let's kind of hear the more in depth version of what you guys are doing, how it's looking, and kind of everything to do with it.
Yeah. So taking a step up now from, we talked sort of about the core technology, but there's a step up where the name Collectiverse means, it stands for collective metaverse.
Hmm.
We wanted to take a technology platform and wrap it in a space metaverse where it allows every builder and every project investor that participates in our ecosystem to have a stake or be a co-owner of our space metaverse. Um, and that we thought would be interesting to enable investors and builders to have diversification if something doesn't quite work out. Uh, and also the opportunity to allow uh, not have to require every project to build their own metaverse. If everyone's building their own metaverse, there's going to be no successful project. We're all going to have hundreds, thousands of different metaverses, and we'll never be in one. So we thought a collective metaverse was a way to support that. Um, so that was from a very high level standpoint. And then, like I said, the ecosystem that we're building underneath, the technology, the core technology. The way to think of it is if like Ethereum or Avalanche had wrapped their existing product within that metaverse from day one. We're doing that with Collectiverse, but the core technology and the benefits is providing DeFi and NFT as a service and making it more secure for investors. That's the core bottom line. So if you want me to go into more details of each one of those things, happy to talk about the underlying technology and how we're doing that.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. You guys,
Oh,
sorry, go on.
no. Yeah, I mean, I said I can go into it more detail, or you please ask your question.
Yeah, so you guys have a lot coming in. So I please go into more detail and then I'll start asking all those questions because they're gonna pile up eventually, but go on, go on.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about what we mean by DeFi and NFT as a service. So right now, to launch a protocol, there's questions around treasury management. There's questions around governance and DAO. Like there's DAO tools that you can build a DAO, but it doesn't actually implement the DAO, the governance, and so forth. There's systems that need to be developed. So every protocol is building that from zero, and it doesn't make sense today. It's like it's like we don't have the shared resources that you would think you would have in this space. So that's where Collectiverse is trying to provide the benefits to builders. Um, and so we have a number of specifics that we're looking to offer that make it easier for a project to launch. We also recognize there's external costs that are not related to building, and that's KYC and there's audits. So what we wanted to do was also provide a way to subsidize those costs for builders. So we have a partnership with Obsidian Council where we will offer to subsidize KYC for builders that want to build in the Collectiverse ecosystem, and also we're partnering with Certic where we would look to subsidize those costs. And if you think about it from a business model, it's very simple understanding. We are able to provide and purchase services in bulk from a provider, and then we're able to pass those discounts on to builders in our space. And by doing that, you're again reducing the friction, reducing the cost, and allowing projects to be more secure, allowing investors to be more aware and have KYC that they want to know who the builders are, or at least be sure that someone like Obsidian is looking at them and making sure they're real. And then again, having the tools to build faster and easier.
Yeah, I really love that. And I think one of the pieces that you kind of touched up on that, and this is what I was going to bring up earlier, that I think a lot of people like is extremely misrepresented on how important this is that the use case and the ease of entry for new investors are not only new investors, new users into these different businesses and different, I mean, that will translate to investors obviously, but even just new users into any of the projects that are being made. The ease of use is huge. It's you can't even emphasize that enough. And so I really, really, really like what you guys are doing with making the cost of entry to new people that are gonna bring in all these new things into development. I think there's a huge piece there, a huge untapped market.
Thank you, and agreed. So let me give you like examples. Let me say examples of how that could be used from that standpoint. Like, so let's suppose you have an NFT project, and they don't have
Mhm.
any DeFi knowledge or skill. They can use Collectiverse to bolt on a DeFi capabilities, and all of a sudden they can create new utility for their NFT project. Alternatively, you could have a DeFi project that wants to leverage NFTs, maybe for a membership or for other capabilities, but they don't have the ability to do that. They don't want to build their own NFT marketplace, which on a platform or a chain like Avalanche, it's not so
Mhm.
easy to release NFTs. So we're offering that turnkey to our ecosystem partners and at a lower cost. So you're getting benefits by building in the Collectiverse ecosystem that you just wouldn't get if you're directly building on Avalanche. And we're planning to expand over to Polygon and to other chains very quickly. So we want to be a cross-chain ecosystem over time.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. Definitely makes sense. So are you guys mainly focusing on the bulk outsourcing as being like a collection you know, of different businesses that are kind of being integrated into as like a way to you're like a central hub to outsource all these things to incoming creators. Is that
So
essentially am
yeah,
I getting the right
so
picture?
So yes, we're building these tools,
Hmm.
these systems, and letting any developer build in our ecosystem. They can either build from scratch, or they can take some of our capabilities as a service and use that.
Hmm.
An example of someone who's doing that very well, and so look at an example of a successful implementation of our strategy, which is great to see, because we were they were a little bit earlier than us when they went out to market, but we had a similar type of strategy. We're just a little broader. Is Horde. They have provided liquidity management as a service. In very similar ways, Collectiverse is providing capabilities around as a service. And if you look at the success of
I think my internet cut out there. Hello?
okay, did you
I'm
did
sorry
you
about that. I heard the success of, and then I just lost you for
oh
a second.
okay. So I'll repeat that again. So the success of Horde. Um,
Okay, yes.
yes, so they're providing liquidity management as a service,
Hmm.
and uh, they've been very successful. They built a valuable protocol from doing that as a service provider, and so they're showing that the ability of taking something that and offering it to other providers or other builders is very valuable, and we're seeing that type of adoption. So Collectiverse is doing something similar along those lines.
Gotcha. Yeah. So are you guys thinking of working with different groups like Horde and like different projects are like different projects offering these services?
Yes, we will be looking to partner with different. So we haven't specifically connected with Horde yet, but I was giving you an
Hmm.
example. But that is definitely someone on our
Yeah.
radar that we would love to work with.
Yeah. I don't think you're alone. I think there's a handful of people that would love to work with them. I mean, their product is extremely, extremely interesting. So, um,
Mhm.
definitely a
But
complex
that's
thing that
that.
would take a lot longer to develop on your own.
Sure, and but that's the example of providing DeFi
Hmm.
capabilities as a service, NFTs
Hmm.
as a service. I think that's a massive opportunity going forward, and where Collectiverse is looking to build an ecosystem. The only difference is we're actually looking to build an ecosystem where projects are can exist in our platform, in our chain, that as opposed to just using just the one element of it.
Yeah, and so I kind of wanted to use that to branch forward. So where does the token? Because I know you guys have your Verse token. Where does that get
Mhm.
integrated with everything?
So our verse token represents the overall, and it's going to have a small percentage of every project in our ecosystem. That's sort of where we're creating like an ETF of the Collectiverse ecosystem. And again, another way to think about it is, suppose you could have a little piece of every Avalanche project or a little piece of every Polygon project. The idea is to um, create a percentage of all the projects that are built. We'll have a small percentage of those tokens or NFTs in our treasury, and that's the verse that's going to represent it. We have not launched that token yet. We are in the process of selling, or we're going to be releasing our NFT seed collection soon, which provides the ability to the top utilities purchasing our Verse token at a discount that ranges from 10% discount for the lowest price ones, up to a 30% discount for the whitelist NFTs. And so there's a couple of utilities that they provide, but that's one of the exciting benefits that you get there, where you actually are buying into our ecosystem at a discount by coming in early.
Awesome. Yeah, that definitely makes sense. And so taking a step back real quick, I'm going to address a question that we actually have from the community. You spoke about making things safer for incoming investors because you mentioned that, there's obviously a lot of rug pulls that happen every single day. So how are you planning on making the platform safer, and what features would you be able to implement that would actually control that?
Yeah, great question. So one of our innovations we're creating is called decentralized custody. Um,
Hmm.
a lot of times when you're investing, you don't know where the money's going. It's being managed in a haphazard way, um, and so what we're doing, and sometimes they talk about multi-sig and they don't actually implement multi-sig. So
Hmm.
what we're creating is a decentralized custody where the funds will sit in a shared repository that is managed by token holders. Then we're also creating another component that allows how you manage those funds, and that's up to each project. So there's how the decentralization or the governance that each project is using will vary by the governance that they want to implement. But that's the idea, that you have a way to manage those funds. And they're not sitting in the owner's own wallet, or they can't be taken to the owner's wallet at any point in time.
Gotcha. Gotcha. That'd be very interesting. I'm curious to see, have you onboarded anyone for services like these so far?
So we have a number of projects that are interested in building in our ecosystem. Every time I present, so we have a two-sided market where we're looking
Mm-hmm.
to provide. One is to the investors and benefits, and the other is to, and apologize, there's some noise out here, but the other is to
Mm-hmm.
the project. What we've started with is targeting the investors first and providing them with a framework, um, and then help with the projects to onboard them over time. We're actually create some new models to raise money for investors. We call it like a DeFi native SPAC, which if you look at the financial version of it, I don't know if you know about the special vehicle to raise funds from a um, from a we raise funds up front, and where you can then invest them into any project that you want. So we're creating a DeFi version of that that's community owned, which we think is a cool innovation, where so investors can come together, use Collectiverse to raise funds as a group or bring in other investors, and then they can look to acquire a NFT collection. They can use the funds to build something. So it's an opportunity to if you don't have specific ideas but to raise a little fund using Collectiverse to then start building or do things and try and experimenting things yourself. So it doesn't not just limited to like, oh, I have an idea and I want to build. We want to enable people to say, okay, I'm going to raise some money and come up with the ideas or work with a team, come up with ideas that we want to support.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I like it. I like it. So you said you've dealt with a handful of projects so far. Are there any
Mm-hmm.
that are currently launching soon or anything like that? Or is it more just recently speaking with projects about beginning the whole process?
So we have projects that are discussing. So let's take a step back. Our
Hmm.
platform we haven't launched yet, so that's still coming.
Yes.
We the way we're going out to market is we're first releasing our NFTC, which we will then bring in some funds to then continue building. We have our phase one of our platform being currently audited by CERTIC. We will be looking to release that 2 to 3 weeks after our NFT seed release. That will allow projects to start raising money, or investors to invest in projects. They can be as a SPAC, or we're actually going to onboard projects at that point that we think would be easy enough to bring them in at this point, because we haven't built out everything. Like, we at some point intend to build out a no code platform, which lets you build with just templates, but that's not ready yet. So the idea is to give some initial the projects that need the ability to can use our existing services in a way that we can help them get up to speed and get launched very quickly. And that could be using our shared treasury management capabilities. It could be our decentralized custody, or it could be a number of ways that they might want to use our service. So we're looking at ways to do that. We have a number of very interesting projects that I mean, again, I can't specifically say the names because we haven't agreed to disclose it, but they are looking to launch, for example, on a different chain, and then they want to have immediate access to investors in the Avalanche chain. Well, that's what
Hmm.
Collectivers can provide them turnkey, because they don't want to rebuild it in Avalanche. So what we can do is we can offer we're doing, like, so for example, they're taking funds and creating a pool in USDC. We are creating our backing of our protocols in USDC2, so they can now immediately offer their services just by having a USDC be connected between the two protocols. If you follow that.
Yes. Yes, I do. I think it's definitely one of the more it's a more complex system than most, but yes,
Well,
it's
no,
really interesting the
the
way.
way to think.
Mhm,
Well, let me take a minute. The way to think about it is you have right now we have projects that are sitting across chains, right? So you have Polygon and they're like they almost like have to sit in different worlds, and you have and if and they're like
mhm.
they're like completely separate projects. What we're providing a project like that's building on Polygon is a way to unify it across the Collectiverse ecosystem. So it's managed in a uniform way.
Yes, yes,
So
100%.
we're actually you actually reduce the complexity of someone who wants to be cross chain by leveraging the Collectiverse ecosystem to stay within our ecosystem and have cross chain applications.
100%. I'm more speaking on like the back end of developing something like that is completely beyond me. But I 100% see like the use case for it is insanely high. I think that's where things are headed in general. So you guys are kind of just taking a step out in front of, in front of the mass of people that will be seeking to do that in the future. So I really do love that the idea of trying to make things much simpler by taking out the need uh for switching chains and all that kind of thing. Definitely something
Right.
extremely useful that needs to
Thank
be
you.
done soon. Yeah.
And,
Uh,
to visually imagine it, like right now you have Avalanche, which is different than Polygon, which is different than Ethereum. Right now, imagine that something sits on top of Avalanche that sits on top of also Polygon that are exactly the same. You created a common denominator now where two things can work much more cleanly and evenly than versus the complexity of way it is today with going through decks, bridging, coming in, and so forth, having to start over. Now you can stay within a common denominator within the Collectiverse ecosystem. And that is the middleware, or what we call layer three, that we're building that allows all these unique applications that doesn't exist today.
mhm. So we're getting into SaaS. So not just software as a service, but services as a service. I love it.
Not well, not SaaS. Again, everything we would take is providing. We are taking some transactional revenue by the success of the project. We're
Yes.
not charging them a SaaS fee for that. So yes, but it is a transactional. The way we make money is no different than like Avalanche will make on gas fees or Ethereum makes on gas fees. We are making some transactional fees that's as part of our ecosystem, the buying and selling the tokens and so forth. So the
Mhm.
more projects that are built, the more investors that are active, the more money we'll make. So we scale in a very similar way, and our
Yes.
success is making those projects successful. So we're very aligned with the projects in our ecosystem and with investors being safe and protected.
Yeah, I really love like the two key points, and I think your values align very similarly to how ours are here at Cardinal House. I would like to ask though, now that we're kind of branched to that topic, revenue sources. So it's always super important, especially in a bear market, to have external
Mhm.
revenue sources as a new project. So can I ask about your team and where the revenue is coming for, just day to day income?
Our day-to-day income right now, we're
Mhm.
not. So
Is it
we're not launched now. So
Yes.
it's on the zero front.
Yes.
So
I more mean
yeah.
like is it dependent on this succeeding to continue the project, or is it an external source that is going to be coming in regardless of how fast your project takes off?
Okay. So what our goal, so our the NFTC collection, the goal of that was to provide our community and the broader community a chance to invest in Collectiverse first and before we would look to bring money from larger investors or VCs or funds or whatever it may be. We wanted to make sure the community has the first access to our project. Then what we're planning to do is from there, we're bringing in capital. We're planning to open it up to a number of other larger investors. We have, through my relationships with traditional finance, I have a partnership with a centralized exchange that's looking to um, target high net worth uh, investors in Asia and China and Thailand. They are from the traditional TradFi space. They're creating this for the investors that are typically not going to invest in crypto, but they're interested in getting in the space. and so they're
Mhm.
looking um, uh, list high quality projects. So we are one of the projects that they've selected to be listed on their marketplace. So we're going to then, once we open up to our community, we're then going to be using those type of avenues to raise monies, and then from there even look at potentially talk to VCs and other high-end investors. So the goal first is we do want to bring in capital to build out more and more of this platform. It doesn't mean that we have to raise all the money or have to do everything day one. We are planning, and we're already going to release phase one, where we will have an ecosystem to show the product working within, by September is the plan. Subject, we're just doing the audits, back and forth, doing the reports. So once we get that completed, we can then release the ecosystem. We can get some projects up and running, and we can show an MVP, a minimal viable product, which is going to be extremely valuable to show any potential investors or to show the ecosystem of what we have. So that's how we are thinking about it, from fundraising, from building. Like we are not a project from the standpoint of we're like a node project or just something out there just trying to uh, create just passive income for the sake of passive income. That's not what Collectiverse is. We are creating a platform that's a true technology that we believe is necessary for the future and success
Mhm.
of DeFi and NFT space. And we want to build as much, we continue building and building and building. And we believe by the next market, we are going to be very, very well positioned to be a massive ecosystem that is, hopefully at that time cross chain and showing how to get projects up and running faster and making investors safer. I mean, if we achieve those two things alone, we are going to be, a very, very successful in what our goals. We have other goals too, to make it more accessible for mainstream investors and so forth, which we're working on too behind the scenes. But those are the two top goals, as I keep saying: make it easier, less friction for projects to build, make investors safer. And we have no question, if we achieve those two goals, we'll be very, very successful.
Yeah, I definitely have to say that that's those two goals alone. They're very tough to achieve, but very very important. And I agree. You guys will be very successful if you're able to accomplish those things. Um, and so
Chris, if I may,
talking,
sorry, if I may say,
yeah.
sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but if I say, I agree they've been very hard to achieve, and
Hmm.
the challenge has been is that every project has been trying to do it the same way, building
Hmm.
directly on chain and trying to do it themselves. But the problem is, and this is our strong view,
Hmm.
building directly on chain, it's going to always create challenges. Always. You need a middleware. You need some in between platform for the projects to build on to solve that problem. You can't keep having projects build directly on chain, because you're going to keep running into issues with dexes, liquidity management, treasury. It keeps
Hmm.
happening over and over, and it's going to keep happening. The only way we're going to solve that is to create turnkey systems that, where someone who doesn't maybe know, they've not done it before, they're not going to make a mistake on the contract, or how you manage liquidity, or how they're managing the funds and the decks and so forth. If you have every new project owner doing that for the first time, you're going to have mistakes.
Hmm.
It's like if every time you have a new driver who's never touched a car come and drive, you're going to have accidents.
Hmm.
You have to have a framework to make it so we're providing that framework to make it so that people don't have to come out for the first time and build and have to get it right. And this is people's money. So if they don't get it right, even if they have no bad intentions, they can lose people's money, which sucks.
So yeah, so can I ask exactly how this would be implemented? So would it be a like similar to a test net? Would it be something completely different? Just so I can get a visual of what the actual software would be for let's say developer coming in trying to figure out if whatever theory that they're testing would be functional.
Yeah, so there's a few ways that a developer can work within the Collectiverse ecosystem. The first is it can be as simple as a token integration, where we can review the project that wants to use it, and they can use a Collectiverse token that's in our ecosystem. And so, actually, let me visually sort of explain what Collectiverse, how we're building this layer on top. On top of Avalanche, that's where we're starting. We are creating our own stable coin. That stable coin is the purpose of that stable coin is going to be 100% USDC backed. The purpose of that stable coin is solely so that the project's contracts are not going to be connected directly into Avalanche or to Polygon. It creates a layer, a buffer that would sit in our ecosystem. So every project token that wants to come and anybody that wants to convert that token would have to convert to our stable coin, and then from our stable coin they can go and trade and convert it to on the DEX. So that if you have the token trading directly on a DEX, there's no way to protect investors. There's no way to ensure that the contracts can't be rugged, because that's the risk. So we're creating a buffer that sits on top of existing chains that helps protect investors and allows us to simplify the complexity for a lot of developers, because now you have this buffer that they're building on top of the Collectiverse ecosystem. From there, we're providing tools and capabilities that investors can, that builders can use that are within the Collectiverse ecosystem. So they can do it as simple as a token integration, which is now, if they're using our token and we ensure that through audits or whatever it may be, we can confirm that project is secure. We can then say you can use our token in there, and they're capturing money or using investor money from the Collectiverse ecosystem. But we know that the token can't be rugged in any way, because if they want to sell the token, they have to go through our stablecoin. So that's one example. And let me stop there and make sure, did you follow that fully?
Yes.
Or was that,
yes.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
All right,
So
cool.
real quick question on that though. So how is so you said that they would have to go through the stable coin. Is there going to be some kind of management on the stable coin then, or how would that differ from them going through USDC directly?
So we're going to offer to all our stablecoin, we're offering an OTC, over the counter traded, to go to USDC. So that's first off. So if you have your stablecoin, but we're also creating a 24-hour buffer that allows us to ensure that if we find out that there's any complaints of going on, there's somebody somehow stole all the tokens for a project, or somehow did something that we just didn't, a flash loan attack or some things happen, right? So they can't take the tokens and run with it in their wallet. They are now have to convert to our USDC coin. So you can't have the flash loan attack you currently have in so many projects where we've all been hurt by somehow in that at some point. You avoid that. So you now solve a lot of the core fundamental problems that have happened across different protocols, very big protocols that we've said, oh, they're great, they're VC funded or whatever. But then all of a sudden they're audited and then they have flash loan attacks. Well, so now what we said is, well, how do you solve that problem? And so what we said is, well, look, you create a stable coin where now the coin has to go and has to sit there for a little while. So that ensures no one can then just run off and put that money in the wallet. Another functionality and capability we do is we use, for a lot of our capabilities, a user vault, where we manage the token, which allows us to give some very powerful functionality for users in how their tokens are managed. So when their tokens are actually sitting in a user vault, it's a custody. Think about it. They get something that shows in their wallet that they have it, but in the user vault, it allows them multiple uses of their token. Now they can stake it and earn yield. They can vote for governance. They can do some other interesting things that relate to our metaverse. So you can have multiple uses of a token now without having to move it all around and pay gas fees. We're providing a turnkey way that you can manage it. But that also provides security, because now someone can't all of a sudden take the token and use it to vote and say, I want all the money in my wallet. So because it's protected, we're creating a new architecture that sits on top of the current DeFi protocols. It's still core to what DeFi is. We're not centralized in any way. It's fully transparent. It's on chain. You're not going to have the issues that you have with like a lot of these centralized exchanges, like we've seen with Celsius and BlockFi or whatever. Everything's on chain. The only difference is we're providing some systems that have traditionally worked in finance. We're using some of those things that have worked and applying it to the ecosystem. And that's where I keep saying that the need for middleware for these type of capabilities are going to be, from our perspective, game changing, because all of a sudden it solves a lot of the fundamental problems that keep happening over and over and over. And it goes to your point, it's very hard. It's very hard because people keep doing the same thing. We're doing something very different, which makes it harder for us to explain to everybody what we're doing, because they're like, what the hell is Collectiverse doing? But we are taking a different approach that we believe will truly fix a number of the fundamental problems in DeFi and NFT space today.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think you may meet a decent amount of resistance at first, especially by the typical DeFi degen player, because it is a layer centralization, right? It is this regulation that prevents you from, pulling your money out immediately for a project at least. But you're also going to have the piece that, for the average investor to get in, the retail investor, for institutional investors to get in as well, you need to have a layer of security that, my investment's not just going to disappear in the 2 hours that I take a nap. It's a little bit,
Yep.
you need to have that security. So regulation is definitely going to increase the total volume. Although I'm sure initially getting into it, you will meet your fair share of
So
opinions against it.
for sure, there's no doubt that we will have people who are saying this is different, and I want to be
Hmm.
totally degen. But at the
Exactly.
same time, think about the current process of investing, this comes from me being an investor
Hmm.
too. You have to study every single project and go deep to say, I mean, maybe you don't, and your money, you're like, okay, I'll just invest it and see what happens, and if it goes up, great. If it gets rugged, oh well. And I see some investors who are they just accepting of it, but I mean, look how many projects rugged in the last few months. I mean, projects people thought would never go rug, and all of a sudden we're seeing projects that just taking the money and said, I'm out, I'm done, and so
Hmm.
forth. Like, you have to do the amount of due diligence you have to do in every project. You'd have to have a due diligence team, like a research team, you're going to have to do. You're going to have to get very expensive researchers to be able to make sure that everything they're doing is right and to the T. Or you can trust one platform, do your diligence on that, and say, okay, every project that's going to be built in there, they're going to be secure. I can invest there and not be worried about losing my principal. And I think people fail. They talk about passive income, passive income. If you lose, if you invest equally across 10 projects and you are getting, say, decent return or whatever, and you lose the principal on one of those projects, all your passive income is wiped out for quite a while on all of them. So you're not to break even is going to take you a lot longer. So your goal is to protect your principal first and
Hmm.
foremost. That's what Collectiverse gives you. Protect your principal first and foremost, and then earn yield, as opposed to having the risk of losing that core, that principal that you're investing. Which, again, if you're investing equally, assuming all else equal, you're investing equally. You have one project that's going to kill your returns from an asset allocation standpoint.
Hmm. Yeah, I really do love the piece, especially after describing that on the 20 after you, sorry, let me rephrase that. After you mentioned the 24-hour hold, I think that that's one of the
Mhm.
pieces that will separate you from the rest. Are there any other big play, because that can, obviously that little piece could be copied. Are there any other big pieces that you're like, this is what's going to help us succeed? And I know part of it is those connections that you had with that centralized exchange. Um,
Mhm.
but outside of those things, whether it be on the development front or be some other connection, I know you've already listed a few. That's why I like to make that
So,
aware to
well,
everybody that. Mhm.
let's be clear. We are talking to all the major protocols for getting grants
Mhm.
to work with us. I mean, as you can imagine, they find that to be very appealing to create a safer, better DeFi, and doing it in a different way
Mm-hmm.
is obviously interesting. And so when we are sharing our roadmap, there's obviously there's interest. So we are working with a number of protocols to get grants in. Um, Obviously, from our view, having a product in the market is going to make a difference and all that, like showing how it works and so forth. But we have a number of core technology innovations that are unique. One is the decentralized custody. The other is the stablecoin. The other is the user vaults that I talked about. The governance voting and how we handle that. And again, those are all tools that we want to offer to anybody in DeFi or in the NFT space to make it available. Um, the ability to go cross chain through our stablecoin, the USDC to USDC type framework to be able to do that. I think when you get to the overall holistic benefits we're offering, it's not like we have to worry about a copycat of one thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't think anyone's going to fork Collectiverse anytime soon. I think the ecosystem we're building, and I mean, to be honest, we've also built our own proprietary NFT marketplace, our own
Mm-hmm.
NFT fractionalizer. I mean, these are just capabilities. Some projects are just focusing on those. We have those capabilities in house developed, and that comes from our team, who's we have one of the first pioneers in NFT space. Actually, two of them, they worked together on launching a project. It was the second major NFT project, CryptoTitties. It was for charity. It's raised close to 100 ETH for breast cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And so, Hami and Rogers built that business, and they've also launched a number 2 NFT marketplace. So we have the experience, not only from my experience on the TradFi and building real businesses and middleware, we have the NFT expertise from those guys.
Yes. Awesome. And then we actually have a question from the audience. So Benova asks, apart from AMA sections, what other plans do you guys have for your marketing? Would it just be things like ads and influencers, um, AMAs? Like, what other things are you guys? How else are you guys doing that?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So we are releasing actually just today. We're going to be releasing an article with a academy partner. It's Platinum Crypto Academy, where they are educating investors who are not sitting and don't have time. The professionals, they don't have time to be in Discord as much as some. So we're educating them. So they've written an article about us that we're going to release that and share that soon with the community. They're doing their own marketing of that article. They're and so forth. So we're going to get we're looking to grow the audience outside of what is typically your Discord market. We are, as I noted, we're also working on that with a centralized exchange, which provides us access to an audience that is definitely not on Discord or not even on Twitter for that matter. They're mostly investing more in either traditional crypto or securities, their traditional finance securities. So they're looking to broaden their horizons to new products. So we are exploring ways. One of the real interesting opportunities we see, and it's a goal for us, is how to open the spectrum to mainstream investors to grow the audience. I mean, one of the problems in this space is that if the same investors are jumping from project to project to project, we're not, no one's going to, none of the tides are not rising for anybody. It's just one goes
Mm-hmm.
up, one goes down, one goes up, one's down. How do
Mm-hmm.
we grow, raise the tides for everyone? So we're really looking to how to do that in as much as possible. But we're doing, look, it's a phased approach. So the first thing that we're doing is, as I talked about, the AMAs, Twitter Spaces. We are targeting both the NFT communities as well as the
Mm-hmm.
the DeFi community. We are also looking to do other things that relate to targeting other Asian, Chinese investors, which we have some connections with, that we're looking to access those investors more. We most of our community, I would say, right now is in the States and Europe. So we're looking to
Mm-hmm.
expand the community beyond to other regions to help educate them.
Yeah,
I
that's
hope that
awesome.
answers your question. Yeah, thank you. Good
Um,
question.
so moving to the next question. I heard you mention, this is from Cleitosaurus. I heard you mentioned cross chain via the stablecoin. Can you speak more about this?
Yeah. So when we are planning to build our stable coin to go cross chain, so because we're using the decentralized custody, you can have funds sitting on one chain and you can back it with on tokens on another chain. And you don't have to necessarily always move the funds directly. They're backed in the Collectiverse ecosystem. And so the stable coin acts as a it's like a statement of record, so to speak, where you're like, for example, when you go to a bank, they're not, and they're talking about funds being used or so on. They're not moving every dollar from one bank to another all the time. They're creating uh, they're creating through systems where that money is there and it's allocated for it, but you don't have to move the money every time. It's basically electronically understood that the money is allocated there. In the same way, we're through the Collectiverse ecosystem, because we sit on top of existing chains. We can do some of these same things that allow you to if, for example, if I want to, if I want to buy a token, I have the funds. These funds are raised in the Avalanche chain, and I want to go and sell it and do a token on Polygon. Those funds don't have to cross over to Polygon. They could still be backed in the Avalanche chain as long as those funds are there.
Mhm. Underneath your
Does that make sense?
ecosystem.
Yes, yes, and that's the thing with Rocket, our stablecoin. Every Rocket is 100% USDC backed. So if you're using in the funds are being, and we're using Rocket and the other chain, you know that those funds are backed somewhere, and we're
Hmm.
in this case. So that's the beauty of our system. We're creating a way for you to be able to for projects to be able to build across different chains much easier, and have an ecosystem where even investors can invest in different ecosystems much easier, versus the expense and the frustration sometimes, the bridging that's required.
Hmm. So will there be other alternatives? That leads me to one question here. Will there be other alternatives to holding, um because if you hold the verse token, correct? That's what we're speaking
Mhm.
of. You
No,
would no?
oh no, sorry. The Verse token is just a governance token for our entire ecosystem. So we have
Gotcha. Gotcha.
we have there's two types of tokens to think about in our ecosystem. There's the projects tokens, which
Hmm.
can be NFTs, they can be fractional NFTs, they can be tokens themselves. It's up to the project how they want to do it. We
Hmm.
offer a turnkey way of using our NFTs, which actually gives you immediate utility for our metaverse. So we incentivize that. But from the standpoint of our token, the Verse token represents is the governance for the entire Collectiverse ecosystem, but most likely it will represent the value of our ecosystem. It will represent the
Hmm.
value because we are. It represents the holdings of each project that we're taking, and it also represents we're going to be doing some programmatic buybacks of the token over time as our ecosystem makes money. So we wanted to have it trickle down directly.
Hmm. So what is the token that is being paired to USDC?
Okay, that's the stablecoin Rocket. Sorry.
Rocket. Okay. Gotcha. Sorry.
Yeah.
I was mixing up the names. Got it.
No worries.
So
No worries.
awesome. So with that, is there any insurance on that, or is the fund are the funds just going to be sitting there? Because they're,
So,
as we've seen with
great.
other corporations.
Yes. So first of all, it's all on chain. So when you say
Uh-huh.
corporations, we're not a centralized exchange. And that
Yes.
one thing we try to are positioning ourselves in our white paper and so forth is that we're sort of like a hybrid of what DeFi
Mhm.
is doing today, which is the Wild West, no protections, and what centralized exchanges are doing, where if
Mhm.
money is sitting in custody, they can change the rules anytime based on what they
Mhm.
want to do, and they set their policies, and you don't even know if your funds are there, right? So you don't know if
Mhm.
it's not your tokens, right? So this is truly these are your tokens. This is your funds. It's fully transparent. The only thing is we're providing the layer of protections with all the benefits of DeFi. So that's how we're ensuring it. And in terms of sorry, what was the you asked a specific question? I lost my train of thought there. What was
No,
the
you're good. So it has to do with like the
okay, thanks.
transparency, but if everything will always stay on chain, um, and
Yeah,
literally just
yeah,
sitting in a wallet, then it's a little bit different of a story. So that makes sense.
for sure. And I wanted to also mention one thing. I think this is important. So from transparency standpoint, we are fully publicly video docs, all the whole team,
Hmm.
founding team. We are KYC'd by Obsidian Council. Obsidian Council is not just our like KYC partner; they are our KYC partner. They are the partner that's going to do KYC for all our projects in our ecosystem. So they
Hmm.
actually KYC'd Collectiverse at no cost, and as part of showing that they want to be part of our team. We have the person who leads the KYC group at Obsidian Council on our multi-sig community there. So we have a 4-person multi-sig. 2 people will be from the community. Those are, and you may or may know Bolt, who's a pretty active member across a number of projects from pre-sale Vanguard, and we have Taylor Funk from that leads up the Obsidian Council, and all decisions will be 3 or 4, where the other 2 people in the multi-sig are the team members. Myself is one, and Hami will be the other.
Gotcha.
So I wanted to
Gotcha.
note
I love
that
that.
because I think that's important. Yeah,
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 that's definitely something new that, I mean, if you look at traditional business, not at all like that. So definitely trying to
yeah.
integrate some of the cool things from DeFi into business. I like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, we are DeFi. I mean, let's not. We
Hmm.
are 100% DeFi. Like
Yes.
I think what we are adding a layer that just provides some protections.
Yeah.
It's 100% DeFi. We are not doing anything that's not DeFi. All our the stablecoin is
Hmm.
DeFi. The all the components we're building are DeFi. They have to be fully audited by Startic and so forth. So nothing here is not DeFi. There's no bank we're using and so forth.
Hmm.
Everything is DeFi. The only thing that will be non-DeFi potentially down the road, which we had planned to build, is we are tying into Rocket, the stablecoin, a debit card that will give all our projects the ability to take their tokens or whatever it may be and let people spend their money in the real world without any of the friction of bridging and moving money around. They
Hmm.
can just say, I want this money to be used to purchase, and it can go in, and that is likely will be a separate entity because of the regulations and so forth involved, but that will have some banking connections there. But that's it. It's going to be tied to Mastercard and Visa payment rails.
Gotcha. Yes, that would be very interesting. When that time comes around. You guys definitely have a lot to keep going through. I want to be respectful of your time. So, if there are any other questions, if you wouldn't mind asking them real quick, guys. And then as we kind of head to the last section of the AMA, I do have a couple quick questions because I'm very, very curious. I'd love to actually get you on again to talk about your own personal history going from TradFi to decentralized finance. It's extremely
Yeah.
interesting to me because you obviously have a lot of experience with it and the more extreme ends of it as well. So,
Mm-hmm.
something I definitely love to bring you on again and kind of get your
Would
look
love to
into that.
would love to join. Yeah, let me know. Would love to be, and I appreciate the opportunity. Would love to join. Let me know what works.
Definitely sounds great. So let's see if there are any other questions that have popped up in here. Um, doesn't look like it right now, but I will say, one thing before you go. Uh, what is the most memorable lesson that you had in traditional finance that kind of that you brought with you into DeFi?
The market's bigger than you. As a trader, you have to have a certain ego to believe that you can win in the market, and then over time, you quickly learn that the market's always bigger than you, and you learn um, to trade the flows and understand what the market's leading. You can take a position, but you have to learn when the right time to cut your losses and it's hard. It's not natural to do that. So I think that was one thing that I took from as a trader. There's another thing I took from as a financial engineer, as a structure of derivative products, and I created new financial products that large hedge funds would use, or big corporations. I mean, you name the biggest corporation. I created hedging products and different securities capabilities for them that they needed to manage, whether it's an airline with their gas prices, or a mortgage company managing their risk portfolio of their mortgage portfolio. There you the opportunity to financialize things is an incredible opportunity. There's so much value created when you can take things and carve them up in unique ways. What I love about DeFi is that it reduces the friction for that significantly. You can now start carving up, and I would say take everybody who's in this listening to this, and I appreciate you being here. Don't think you can't do this. You know more about this than so many other folks that are in the space. And if you have you leverage the tools out there and just experiment. You might come up with the next big thing and you didn't even realize it. I think we all feel like, oh, I have to just be an investor. I have to be. You can actually be a builder, and we want you all to come and be part of that in Collectiverse. But if you don't do it in Collectiverse, wherever you're doing it, please take those chances and start building, because you are at the forefront of a huge market revolution that I think will quickly change what we think of finance. I think everything will underlie that we know about will be some financial element, which is going to be very powerful.
I love that. I love it. Any closing thoughts yourself, so I don't leave anything out, if there was anything you wanted to touch up on?
Well, first of all, I want to make sure we do the giveaway. We do
Yes.
have four whitelists to give away. I mean, in fact, if you want to put a bonus there and make it 5 or 6, I'm all for that. I don't know how you typically do giveaways and how you want to, but I'm you can tell us, and just to let you know what the whitelist gives. It's for the NFT seed of, it's a $350 NFT that gets you $500 worth of tokens, and when we release the tokens, so it's a 30% discount, so the return's built in right there. And you also have immediate utility in our metaverse, with that lets you earn, and the whitelist also have first access to which stars and asteroids that we're releasing. So we'd love to have you part of our community, and so if you're interested, please join the whitelist, or just come in as an investor. Love to have you. But that's one thing I want to mention. And then if in terms of just closing thoughts, this space is an amazing space, but we're still very early in building it. I think we we typically take this is the way it is, and we have to sort of say, like, how can it be better? How can we make this space better? And I think by everyone being part of it, you have that chance to do that. And from our standpoint, we're trying to do our way of doing that, and we have to. We're not going to do it alone. We need projects. We need investors. We need people to believe in us. So obviously, it's something that's going to require a community, as opposed to just a few founders going out there and doing it all by themselves.
Yeah, I love the focus on community there. And yeah, so anyone here in the audience right now, if you did ask a question, we'll put you in the list, and I'll be releasing that right after the AMA, after I go double check who asked questions. If you didn't ask a question, go ahead and ask something now, and at him, and he can go ahead and answer that if you don't mind in the AMA questions chat after this call.
Sure. That'd be great.
But
I'll be ready to do that. I like
Kurt.
that question. Yeah, you got it, man. That
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for coming on. And I look forward to talking to you again soon, because your project is definitely one of the more exciting things coming out soon. Definitely one of the things I'm most interested to see how it does. And we've already addressed all those things, but I love it. I love it.
Thank you, Chris. And anytime you want to talk, I just and not it doesn't have to be a collectiverse. You want to talk about experiences in TradFi and DeFi and the losses I've taken and the pain I've heard in DeFi where I thought I'm smarter than everybody else. Like I'm
The
coming
first
from TradFi.
rug.
I'm gonna be smarter. Right. I'm like, what the hell? It's a painful experience. Like I have to say, let me just say one thing. That's why sort of when launching Collectiverse, like one is to make a bad investment, but to have someone steal your money, it's just so painful. Like this person
Hmm.
had no intention of building anything. They sold you a great story that you bought into, and they just took your money. It's so painful. Like that, I actually
Hmm.
rather be investing wrong. And Bitcoin when I bought Bitcoin and went down. Oh shit, okay, it's okay. It's when someone actually steals your money. You're like, how that is so rude.
Yeah, yeah. It's DeFi in a nutshell. The most.
Well, no, we're gonna fix that. We're gonna fix
Yes,
that.
we
That
are.
is,
Yes, we are.
see what you just said. That is what I was saying. Become
Uh
complacent,
huh.
accepting it, and I want to. If you believe it, how are your friends gonna be that are not in DeFi? If you're already thinking that's how the DeFi in the shell is, then your friends are doing no way I'm getting in that space, right? So I mean,
One
why
hundred
would they? It's
percent.
like it's like Russian roulette. I mean, like some people, yeah, like Russian roulette, but most people don't. So
I don't think those
so
people are here.
no, right. So exactly. So we have to change what you just said. And that's what I was trying to
Hmm.
say. Like we are too accepting of what are flaws in the system. And we all can make a difference. We all can make a difference.
100%. I love that. All right. I will let you go about the rest of your day. Like I said, if you guys did want one of those NFT whitelist spots, make sure you asked a question. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and we hope to play you on again for more of those lessons because I love it. I love all the talk about traditional finance and how it's influenced what you're doing now.
Awesome. Love to. Let me know. Thanks,
Have
Chris.
a good
Appreciate
one.
it. And thank you, everybody. Yeah, you too. Take care.